The biggest what if in Michigan football, the preseason narrative I think is completely off, and why the offensive line could determine everything, coming up right here on this episode of Locked On Wolverines.
You are Locked On Wolverines, your daily podcast on the Michigan Wolverines, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Thursday. We're back and doing it. Locked On Wolverines podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. I'm your man on the ground, Isaiah Hole, publisher of Wolverines Wire through USA Today Sports Media Group. It is the Michigan mailbag. That means we are going to start out with the leaders and best in segment 1, move into the victors valiant in segment 2, and then finally we will do the blue crew. We have a legitimate blue crew this time, and we will do that in segment 3, which is more of a lightning round. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The biggest stage in world soccer is here. Let there be goals on FanDuel. Visit FanDuel.com to get started now. All right, let's start out with our leaders and best, starting with James Crudup at James Crudup 6. If Michigan never landed Kyle... Let's try that again. If Michigan never landed Kyle Whittingham, do you think is head coach right now? It's really difficult because I think that they would have found a way to get Kenny Dillingham if that was the case. Actually, no, it would have been Kalen DeBoer. It would have been Kalen DeBoer because he would have eventually lost to Indiana, a week after Whittingham was hired. Would have lost to Indiana. They would have hired Kalen DeBoer, who had strong interest in the job. No matter what anyone else says, that was essentially happening until they realized, hey, we can get Kyle Whittingham, and that might be better ultimately for the program, which I agree with. I was not really the only reason I really even wanted Kalen DeBoer was just to have the head-to-head win, just to have the splash, the excitement. I think there would have been more excitement than what's happening with Kyle Whittingham right now. Unfortunately, Whittingham's just kind of all right, let's just see, right? Just ho-hum in a lot of ways. But that's a good thing. Michigan needed that. Michigan needed someone who's serious, who's an adult in the room. But I think that DeBoer would have been a poor fit, and they would have had to change some things. It's won almost everywhere that he's gone. Hasn't had a strong run game a lot of the times, and Michigan's built to have a strong run game. And as much as you want to see a change to a better passing attack, you don't really want to make wholesale changes. And that's what Michigan is not doing right now. So really good that that's not what ended up happening. Josh Barajadicki, what's the thing that the overall preseason coverage of the team right now will most likely end up being wrong when the season is over? That one's simply the Bryce Underwood narrative. It's this acting like Bryce can't improve year over year. The spring game is indicative, which spring game was a step back from what we saw, but people act like that is what it was last year all year long. Ultimately, Bryce had 2 very poor games, Michigan State and Purdue. Had subpar games like Texas, where he looked really good. Actually, Ohio State's one of the 3 really poor games. Ohio State was the worst game of all of them, to be honest. But the Texas game went well until the fourth quarter. Everything else was kind of okay, for the most part. I mean, Oklahoma was meh, but game 2 against the Brent Venables defense on the road. I think that if he is unleashed with his legs and they make smart decisions about deployment, if he ends up making smarter, better decisions, AKA I've seen enough college football to understand what it is that I'm looking at, which is something that you generally can't teach as much as experience. I think that ultimately the Bryce Underwood narrative will go out the window quickly. My brother in metal, Michael Wolf at MWolf21. Most of us think the O-line will improve this year based off coaching alone, but how do you think the season will start with that group? Visually much improved right away, or serviceable to start and improving throughout the season? I think it's probably more serviceable to start and pass. I think running, they'll look phenomenal to start the season. I think if you're looking more so at the first game of the year, it's going to feel wow, that looks really good. But I think by the Iowa game is because week 4 is typically when I'm looking for the offensive line to kind of show you exactly what it's going to be. And I'm drawing off of the experience of 2018 when it was still funny to me. 2018, people like I was complaining about the offensive line all 2017 when I was at 24/7 Sports. The majority of people were complaining about the quarterback situation, which, I mean, rightfully once like you got to midseason, but like before midseason, I mean, Wilton was not great, certainly took a step back, didn't have the same receiving core he did, was getting killed by the offensive line. I was open about that. People were sitting there saying like, no, it's a quarterback. And then John O'Korn takes over and has this Purdue game. Everyone's like, whoa, yes, this is amazing. And I'm like, okay, maybe I was wrong. And then kind of fell off after that. But like I spent that entire season talking about the offensive line. People were like almost a year late to catch up. And then like I remember after the Nebraska game, people were like, offensive line is so stupid. And I'm like, did you not watch the game? They looked phenomenal. And that was the game when things finally started to come together. That was week 4 of 2018. I kind of expect week 4 to be the year, or not year, the week that you kind of know exactly what it's going to be. But like, I think they'll be better by virtue of just being older, by having that coaching, all of those things. And I think by week 4, we'll kind of know exactly what it is capable of. Spencer Whitmore at Spencer Whitmore. How was Grand Haven? You're welcome to relocate to the west side if you want. I mean, Renee and I kind of felt like, we loved it. We loved Grand Haven. I think we loved Holland more. We stayed in Holland. That was not the plan. Ultimately, it was just like, what can I find that's not like an arm and a leg? It was just like, a day trip, essentially. I mean, overnight. But we walked around Holland, and it's funny how much like I've never really spent any time in Holland. And I mean, I've been there, but I'd never spent any time there. And I have been to Grand Haven before, but like it's been more than a decade since I've been there. And so it's funny because I almost conflated what they are, but I loved both of them. We loved both of them. So it was phenomenal. And for Renee, she's from Rhode Island, to experience parts of Michigan she hasn't before, that isn't like the, Metro Detroit area, I think was good for her. And I never really experienced anything outside of the Metro Detroit area, even though I grew up here, until about 10 years ago as it was. I'd never been up north. I had never been anywhere in the state and my family's like, why haven't you been anywhere? I'm like, when I was like 12, how do you think I was going to get anywhere? How did you think that was going to work? Can you explain to me? Like, because I said to my grandma a couple of weeks ago, like, I was like, I've never been to Mackinac Island. And she's like, you've never been to Mackinac Island? I was like, who was going to take me to Mackinac Island? Y'all didn't take me. Finishing us out in segment 1, Edwin Simmons at Simmons_Edwin. Happy Thursday, my brother in Christ. Just wanted to say I'm so happy. I'm so happy you're on the vacation with the lady, or you were on the vacation with the lady. Awesome. Was last time you had a cigar with the AD? Last time I had a cigar with Ward was Tampa, the ReliaQuest Bowl. It's been a while. Can we win all our home games? Which home games would we be underdogs? I think underdogs against Oklahoma and Indiana, but I think it's absolutely possible that they win all of them. Indiana's probably... the only reason why maybe Oklahoma is more daunting is because it's so early in the season. You might not quite know what you're fully capable of, and you might have a better scouting report on Indiana. But Indiana, I can say this for Craig Sheeman and Jacob Goins, our 2 resident Locked On Hoosiers. They are seemingly more confident in the passing attack with Josh Hoover, Nick Marsh, Charlie Becker, and all of those guys than they were even this time last year with Fernando Mendoza and Eli Surratt and all of those guys. So that could be daunting for that reason, but like also being at home, I mean, that can be a game changer as well. But then again, they went to Oregon and won last year. So that you kind of can't sit there and say home field advantage is everything against a Kurt Cignetti team. All right, we've got so much more to get to. We're going to move into our Victors Valiant. We're going to do that here in just a moment. But before we do, the biggest stage in world soccer is here, and every match feels like it has the potential for a memorable moment. One goal can completely change the energy of a game, shift momentum, and alter the outcome in an instant. That's what makes tournament soccer so exciting, from the opening whistle to the final kick. Now, FanDuel is giving fans another reason to stay locked into every match with every goal pays. Bet on a match and get bonus bets for every goal scored in that match. More goals mean more bonus bets. All you have to do is turn on your token. What I love about these tournaments, you can turn on a match between teams you don't normally follow, and suddenly Suddenly, one goal changes everything. The tension builds so quickly that you're invested before you even realize it. And now, on top of all of that, you get the benefit from each goal scored. From the opening whistle to the final kick, let there be goals on FanDuel. Visit FanDuel.com right now to get started. Get your daily Michigan fix completely ad-free by joining the Everydayer Club today. Start your 7-day free trial right now and get closer to your team without the interruptions. Click the link in the show notes or go to LockedOnWolverines.supercast.com to claim your free trial. We'll get really amped up there here soon, but obviously we are in the doldrums of summer. So, anyhow, let's move on to the Victor's Valiant, Great Bambino X at Colossus O Cloud X. Get your crystal ball out. The year is 2031. Whittingham has just wrapped up his 5th year as Michigan's head coach. What's his overall record, bowl playoff experience and record, Big Ten championships, national championships? I'm not going to predict the national championship. I'll predict one Big Ten championship. I would have maybe predicted 2 or 3, but the Big Ten's just much harder to win now. I'll say 3 playoff appearances. As far as overall record, let's see. So you're talking 5 years, 6 years worth, 5th year, wrapping off the 5th year. So if we're talking 70, I'm trying to do the math, 60 games. I will say he is somewhere around the 40-20 mark. No, let's say 45-15. I mean, that's probably 2. 5 years. I think 40, like 44-16. Let's say 44-16. Because like this year I'm predicting 9-3, and I'm just going regular season here. I'm predicting 9-3 this year. Next year, I don't like they're playing at Texas. Texas might take a step back with Arch gone, but it is at Texas. I don't know if any of those things will change. Like, I think they'll have some years where they're 11-1. I think they'll have some years where they're 9-3, maybe 8-4. But I'll say 2 Big Ten championships, no national championships, 3. I think they'll go to a bowl game every year. I don't think they're going to fall off like that. KLob711 at KLob711. I see on 3s. JD Pickell is predicting Michigan to go 8-4. He's picking Michigan to lose all the toughest games: Oklahoma, Indiana, Oregon, and Ohio State. If that comes to fruition, do you feel Coach Witt's first season will be viewed as a success or a failure? A failure, certainly. He's got to win at least one of those games for it to be like, okay, there's something that they're working with here. I mean, even Penn State and Iowa, I just don't think that. I think in a pre-expansion year, people would look at that and say, okay, you're working with something, but I just don't think that they're going to have that. But I don't think it's unfair to look at it that way. I just think that's just, again, the typical Michigan is the one team that's not allowed to get better. Usually how that goes. Ian Westbrook at Ian_Westy1. Do you think this team will be an offensive-led team or more of a defensive-led team? Defensive, I do think. Obviously, you want both to play well. I'm just wondering which side of the ball do you think ends up taking over games more? I'm interested in seeing this team's identity take shape. Thanks. I think defensive, just based off of the way they talk about it. Would I be surprised, given Jason Beck's track record, if at the end of the year we're talking about the offense being just ultra explosive? No. Kind of maybe it'll be a mix like 2021. That's kind of, I point to 2021 as being kind of like the blueprint in a lot of ways, because I think that 2021's offense wasn't insane in terms of the passing game, but phenomenal running team, one of the most explosive teams, had the most 40, 50 yard plays of anyone in the country. So I think they can get that. David Pruden at Dave H. Pruden. Which of the position rooms outside of linebackers has the most approved this year? Wide receiver. Would any kind of win against Oklahoma make you feel comfortable moving forward, or would it have to be a multi-score win? Go Blue. Jesus loves everyone. It doesn't have to be a multi-score win. It just needs to be a win. Just find a way to win that game. It's I don't really care about style points. That's a tough team. That was a playoff team last year. That was a team that for a half looked like they were going to run Alabama off the field, and then they just turtled, I guess is the best way to put it. Jacob Shavaria at Shavaria. What's the vibe of the football program at the moment? Is there any sense of urgency? Do you agree the World Cup is like watching Iowa football? Well, I have not watched World Cup right now. I've seen clips. So I couldn't tell you. I haven't watched a match. But as far as the vibe of the football program, I mean, it's high. It's really high. And like, that's the kind of funny thing is like, everyone seems really excited from what I've heard, but like, it doesn't necessarily trickle down into the media and all that stuff. I know I'm the media, so it's partially my fault, probably. I'm not the one at William Cawthorn 9 with 3. If Underwood balls out this year, I mean, like first team All-American ball out, would it be because of coaching, his drive to be great, or the team stepping up? Could it be one thing more than the others? I mean, it could be, but I think it would be probably all of the above. You need all of those things to be working out together. What would be the cause of Whittingham not completing his contract besides something illegal or nefarious? Just being, 66 years old, essentially. Or, things not going as well as anticipated, which is certainly a possibility. I have some colleagues that are not sold on the idea of him coming. I have one colleague that thinks it could be like the Rich Rod Brady Hoke type of experiment. So not everyone is all aboard. What would be considered real success during Whittingham's tenure at Michigan? Big Ten championships, beating Ohio State. Same thing as anything, really. Like if they go 8-4, but they beat Ohio State, which would mean that they would probably lose to Iowa and Penn State, then like Iowa or Penn State. No one's going to bat an eye at that. You know what I mean? BW at BW 2623. Why was Chip Lindsey not allowed to be more hands-on with Bryce? Orders from Sharon. That is coaching malpractice. As far as Chip Lindsey with Bryce, now this is kind of something from someone that I trust, but might not necessarily be the most 100% accurate info. But I just kind of heard that it was like a little bit of like tenuousness, like just trepidation, like just kind of like, oh, I don't know about dealing with, right? Like, the type of thing that people worried about with NIL, like this kid is paid more highly than me and I'm a little bit afraid to go and do whatever. That's one thing. That's something very separate from why was Chip Lindsey not allowed to call his offense. That was Sharon. But this, I don't believe, was orders from Sharon. I just think it was like a little bit of a tenuousness that probably shouldn't have existed. Being scared, essentially. SS at SS Go Blue 25. What's your prediction for the playoff field of 12 based on spring summer reports? I mean, I don't know. I don't really have one at this stage. Not to cop out here, but I don't really have one because there's always like we did a whole show on what the preseason expectations were this time last year and how wrong everybody was. Penn State was like in everybody's thing and they fired James Franklin halfway through the season. Like this is my kind of, this time of year, everyone acts so sure. And this is why I'm just not engaging in it. Everyone acts so sure. Oh yeah, this team's going to be great. And they end up not, like usually I feel like there's more, there are more people like, cause I was really high on Indiana going into last year because I was really high on Fernando Mendoza. And I thought like, people acted like Indiana was just like a flash in the pan. I don't think I was that high on Miami, but that was kind of more because every year I'm high on Miami and they didn't end up making do, but then they end up making the championship game. I wasn't as high on Ohio State because I thought Matt Patricia was going to be a disaster and I was dead wrong on that. I mean, I thought Ohio State would be good, but I thought this might be a step back a little bit, defensively if they're not very good. So like right now I would say, I can say this, like, I think Oregon is going to be incredible. I think people are shortchanging Oregon in favor of, loving on Ohio State. That's not saying I don't think Ohio State's going to be good. I question their defense again because they lost all of the personnel essentially. But offensively, they should be phenomenal. And in Indiana's probably like Indiana, I would not be surprised if they took a little bit of a step back, but like maybe we'll find out more about Kurt Cignetti at Indiana. But other than that, like I look at Georgia, Texas, and then after that, I don't know. I don't really know when the Big 12 is going to be good. I don't really know a lot about that type of stuff. Ramez Herrick. Who is the best football player to ever come out of the state of Michigan? I know that's because Bryce said it. I don't know. I mean, pure talent, Bryce probably could be that, as much as people are like mad at it. Drew Henson, people are like, oh, you should talk to Drew Henson. Like, well, Bryce is that caliber of recruit. It's just a matter of making good on it. He's not wrong. I mean, he wasn't a consensus number one, but like the ones that mattered essentially had him as the number one player in the country. Rivals and 24/7 Sports had him as the number one player in the country. So we act like, oh, like that's not like he was the highest rated recruit Michigan's ever gotten. I don't really know who else I would put in that category, to be honest. And I'm not really well-versed on the history of the state of Michigan recruiting. I'm only really well-versed on what I covered from 2016's class forward, and Bryce is clearly the best of those on paper. Mike Matthews at Michigan Mike 7. Who do you think has been the most impressive new assistant coach hire so far? Way too early for me to tell you that because I don't know. We have to see how it looks on the field. The one that I have the highest expectations for, Jim Harding. I'm really excited about Micah Simon. As far as recruiting, Gennaro Guilford and Tyler Stockton have been phenomenal. So yeah, but that's just this. Like, that's just where I'm at there. Dr. JT PhD at Vaunted JT. Have any standout performances been released by Doug Elisaya and his strength team, who are the fastest and strongest on offense and defense? No, nothing to my knowledge has been released as far as that's concerned. Keeping in mind they are in summer conditioning right now, and I have not done like the kind of status reports that we've seen from like Ben Herbert. But I mean, the only thing I can really say is like Savion Hyder said that Travis Johnson is the fastest player on the team. But no, that type of stuff tends to be a little bit close to the vest to some degree. Finishing us out in segment 2, the Rican Raider at Hamstand 87. Morning, Isaiah. What do you think would be a fun addition to recruiting visits? Say you have an unlimited budget and no ideas are off the table. Helicopter tours over Ann Arbor and Michigan. If all like take them all over Michigan. I did a helicopter tour back in 2022, was supposed to go to Detroit, but there was a baseball game, so they couldn't do that. And they were like, well, where do you want to go? And I'm like, can we go to Ann Arbor? We flew over the big house. We flew all over the place. And I think just being able in the summer to be able to show prospective recruits how beautiful Michigan is. I mean, heck, if you go to the, fuel, I don't know how much like a helicopter can fly. How far can you fly over the west side of the state? Can you show them that like, hey, you can take little summer vacations here in May and June when you don't have as much to do, and like do those types of things. That would be my thing, is a helicopter tour. For someone that doesn't like flying, I loved being on a helicopter. I thought it was so much fun. I don't like being 30,000 feet in the air, I think is part of my thing. I don't mind being 1,000 feet in the air, 3,000 feet in the air. I don't like being 30,000 feet in the air. All right, we've got plenty more to get to. We're going to get to the Blue Crew here in just a moment. But before we do, running a business shouldn't feel like you're trying to connect a bunch of systems that were never designed to work together. One app for accounting, another for inventory, another for sales, and somehow none of them talk to each other. That's where Odoo comes in. Odoo is an all-in-one business management software that brings every part of your business together in one powerful platform. From sales and accounting to inventory and marketing, everything works in one place, helping your team move faster, stay organized, and focus on growing the business instead of managing software. The best organizations know that success isn't just about talent. It's about having everyone working toward the same goal. And that's true in sports, just like it is in business. Much like how it was with Michigan, bringing in Kyle Whittingham, sometimes you got to think outside the box when it comes to optimizing your organization. You can tell this wasn't a reactionary move. The organization had a vision, stuck to it, and now you're starting to see those early returns because everyone is working from the same playbook. Great organizations win because operations matter. That's why you should get Odoo. Try for free today at odoo.com/lockedon. That's odoo.com/lockedon. We are on to the lightning round, the Blue Crew. Let's start with Zach at Zach Woodruff 3. Is Big Ten Media Days a good opportunity for fans to interact with players and coaches, or just more for the media? Faithful listener, rare question asker. Appreciate you coming on here. No, There used to be a fan fest, but no, it's not at all for the fans. It's entirely for the media. The fan fest that they had once upon a time allowed you to meet all of the coaches, but they don't do that anymore. And they haven't since 2019, I believe, was the last year they had that. But no, it is not an opportunity for you to interact with anybody. It's an opportunity for us to interact with people, but that's it. Carter at Carter KBZV. Any intel of who will be on Mike Boynton's staff? I'm not really a basketball insider. I'm not really even a football insider anymore. I mean, I can get inside info and I share that when I do sometimes. Say that as if I'm just telling you everything. I'm not. But basketball, I've never really been an insider, so I couldn't really tell you. Michigander 1212. Everyone wants to ask about breakout candidates and positive outcomes, yet nobody wants to talk about the potential dark side of those conversations. Who are some players that could be potentially letdowns? Not named the obvious Bryce Underwood that everyone seems to want to be true. I don't understand why. Like it really is almost like people are relishing the idea of Bryce not being well, not being good. I mean, what if Andrew Marsh has a subpar season? Now that everyone knows that's Michigan's number one receiver, what if that ends up being the case? What if the defensive front is more what we thought before Kyle Whittingham sitting there talking about how that's the strength of the team? What if Jair Hill and Zeke Berry don't take a step forward? What if John Henry Daly looks more like he did 2 years ago than he did last year? I mean, it could be anybody. What if Jordan Marshall can't stay healthy? I don't think any of those are plausible necessarily, but those are all possible. Happens every year. There's usually somebody that you think is going to have a really big year and doesn't. So A24 at 22 _ account 26816 11-1 or 10-2 for Michigan this year. I mean, I'm saying 9-3. Will Michigan release the files on OSU or continue to hold on to them? Michigan's not the ones that have that. That's a media outlet that has it. And I don't know. Connor tried getting a hold of me yesterday, and I wasn't able to answer due to doing the squad show. So there you go, Richard. I'm on the squad show. You just missed the 3 straight months I was on it. T Soups. Michigan starting receivers beside Marsh, JJ Buchanan, and then Jamie French or Celeste Moa. Also tight end. I will go with Hogan Hansen and or Zach Marshall, and then Deacon Tonielli after that. Strongest part of the defense. I'm thinking the secondary. I mean, the coaches believe it's defensive front. I'm not going to negate them. They get to see things behind the scenes that I do not. Brad West, what is likely to be higher for the season? Total touchdown receptions by wide receivers or total turnovers caused by the defense? I'll go total turnovers caused by the defense just because Jay Hill he's phenomenal at coaching these guys to get turnovers. So it's not me saying, and plus I think Michigan very well could find themselves similar to the last 5 years where they're like, we can rush for touchdowns. Maybe we do see the passing touchdowns take an uptick, but like, I think that nonetheless, it's more likely that the total turnovers will be higher. Ben at Spoonjamin _ what kind of year-over-year growth do you expect us to see from last year's freshman class? I think you tend to see, I don't know how to quantify it, but I think that you tend to see players make their biggest jump from freshman to sophomore year. Who do you believe will make the biggest jump from last year in terms of on-field performance? I'm talking some more redshirt freshman to redshirt sophomore, but the 3 linemen, I think you'll see Blake Frazier, Jake Guarnera, and Andrew Sprague take big steps forward personally. El Deuterino, BJ33S rather, 2014. What percentage do you give Bryce to throw for over 3,000 yards and 20 touchdowns total? 3,000 yards. I mean, Devin Dampier didn't throw for that either of the last 2 years. I'll go 25% based off of that. So high, but not probably higher than some think, but not super high. I think 2,820 touchdowns total, if you're counting rushing touchdowns, is feasible. Finishing us out, Jordan Hickey at JH Red Eagle. Is our linebacker room looking positive despite our unproven players? It seems that way. And Alex Whittingham was on, he had his little release and raved about Chase Taylor. Maybe I've told you a little something about that. Really likes the depth. again, I think it's going to be a positive room. Just because they haven't been proven just means they haven't been proven yet. That's where I stand there. All right, that's going to do it for us today. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for listening. We'll be back on Friday. Peace.